चेल्सी आहूजा, the founder of Brown Living. So Chelsea, ये green living क्यों नहीं है? ये brown living क्यों है? What is it that you aim to do and achieve at Brown Living? Can shopping actually be sustainable?
I would say don't buy anything.
I think Reliance wants to bring Shein back to India.
I think this whole skincare business can be entirely managed from your kitchen itself.
About 80% of your sellers are women.
Yeah.
So why this gender bias? Main question ये है, Google ने पैसा कितना दिया funding round में? Welcome to the Sustainable Talk. My name is Manil, and today I want you to imagine being able to shop till you drop and not having to live with the guilt of knowing that you've caused a lot of harm to the environment and society around you. And you know what? This is not just a dream. This can actually be done today. Thanks to somebody who I've known for a very long time personally, Chelsea Ahuja, the founder of Brown Living, who is with us on this talk today. Chelsea, welcome to the talk. So happy to have you.
Thank you, Manil, for that incredible introduction. I think I'm very, very excited to be here and have this chat, especially with you, because I've seen you as somebody who was leading us in our school, and I'm very excited. I'm not going to delve more into phases, but I just wanted to set context there. Thanks.
So before I get into a formal introduction of what Chelsea does, so Chelsea and I go back to school. We studied in the same school in Ahmedabad, and I was a few years elder to her. Now I don't know about the leadership bit. I think I never set good examples, but I'm glad she remembers that fondly. So Chelsea, talking about your work, right? You are the founder of Brown Living. Now within this role, right? What is it that you aim to do and achieve at Brown Living?
Build a space that I love. I've been in the corporate world, and I think I'm the kind of person who is kind, and I'm also a nature lover, and I don't think that there is this or that. You cannot only be sustainable or only be a mainstream person. I think in today's time, it is possible to live a sustainable life while living in a modern urban city. And I think in my experience in retail and marketing, I learned that there were certain organizations that were only looking at profits, but not looking at any other aspect of the world or the community or the planet. And I think that really hurt me in a lot of ways. And that's when I said, okay, I wanna create something of my own that I can control and that I can set an example to say that, is it possible to be kind, to have a good business, and actually doing good is actually good for business. So that is the thought process that I started Brown Living with the intention to say that can we work with people who are doing great work for the environment, for people around them, for communities at large, and how do we help them succeed? And that's how we created the platform about 5 years ago with just that in mind, that how do we help consumers succeed at living sustainably, and how do we help businesses succeed at being sustainable and doing what they do best.
I think that's an excellent goal to set for a business. What you said was wonderful, right? That how is it possible that in the modern world companies can't do both? They have to be sustainable while being mainstream, and you have to do good at all ends, right? And everything that you're doing. So with that in mind, we will come back to how Brown Living actually works and how do you reduce your impact or keep yourself positive. Let's talk about consumers, right? I think at the end of the day, they are the ones who are keeping businesses alive. So one thing that I would love to understand from you is, can shopping actually be sustainable?
I think the answer lies in the mindset. You don't have to shop 20 things. You can shop just 2 things or 5 things that you absolutely need. So the mindset here is use what you have first and only buy what you need. We get in today's world where Instagram, is all over our faces today, where every third thing we see is an ad. Wherever we go, there are hoardings. I just want to take a little step back, and I want to talk about when I was in Bhutan last year. Beautiful country, 85% forest cover. I'm in the car for like 5 to 6 hours. You see mountains, you see water, you see roads. And you will not see a hoarding for 2 to 3 hours straight. And the people there are so happy, right? There has to be a connection there. What I'm trying to say is that, of course, it's a smaller country. It has, smaller population. But I think we are all struggling for happiness, but we just don't know it. We find happiness in objects. We find happiness in things we want to buy. But I think really the happiness is in being healthy, clean inside
Yeah.
and outside. So nobody is telling you to buy 20 things in a day. Fast fashion is a very new movement, but we never used to be over consumers. Pre-industrialization, pre World War II, we were all essentialists. We were all minimalists. We were only living with things we needed. So I'm not saying we become primitive, but I'm saying that with the resources that we have taken from this planet over the last 100 years, I don't think we need to continue living that way. And I think we're getting so many warning signs, so many red flags.
Oh.
You see landfill heaps of waste, you see people getting affected on a health level, microplastics are in our bloodstream. So it's a wake up call at all levels.
True.
And so just making ourselves happy with the one new thing that you buy is not a long lasting happiness. So really, if you change your mindset, yes, you can live a sustainable life. And then whatever you need whatever you're trying to replace, something that has stopped working or something that's done its course or done through its life, replace that with a sustainable alternative. That's really what we're trying to establish here.
Right. And I think I would also like to state, you said pre-World War II. I mean, I am not pre-World War II. I remember as a child growing up, I was mostly essential living. I think
Yeah.
our parents used to buy us that one garment a year
Yeah.
on a birthday, and then maybe one garment on a festival, right? And shoes were bought once in 3 years and 4 years. We didn't have racks of shoes growing up, did we? And yet we were happy.
Yeah, we were so happy because
And
we were use those shoes and we would rip them apart and then say, "Hey, I now need a new one."
Exactly. I mean, those canvas shoes, by the time you would run through one pair of canvas shoes or school shoes, they were literally no longer repairable. They had gone to the mochi so many times that the mochi also said, "Bhaiya naya khareed lo ab. अब इनको नहीं ठीक कर सकता."
And we had things
and-
like, polishes, and we had whiteners for canvas shoes as well. So I think over time, a lot of these services have also sort of faded out. Tailors, we used to use tailors to repair our clothes or to stitch our own clothes. We used to have cobblers. You hardly see them today now because people are just
No, not
buying
at
new
all.
stuff. They're not repairing things. Electronics were getting repaired and being used for years. My mom still has a fridge that we've had for 25 years and it works perfectly, still keeps the food chilled. And I don't need a new fridge, right? So there's also
True.
this concept of planned obsolescence that I think a lot of these companies
Yep.
have started doing. The best of the companies, you take Apple, like any of these tech products that you buy
Apple
today,
introduced planned obsolescence. I mean,
Exactly.
they are the kings of planned.
it's really changed. So I think consumers are buying what they are being given.
Correct.
And what is
Correct.
being given is only being given from the incentive of making a profit at the cost of consumers having to spend much more over time. So really, if you look at it, if you buy great quality products, they will last you a longer
Yeah.
time. You don't have to replace them all the time, right? So
True.
I think,
True,
again,
true.
for consumers, sustainable living is a consumer-led movement. A lot of people have realized, have started reading through the false marketing that brands have been doing over the years. And that's why they're asking questions. That's why you have a need for certification. That's why you have a need for how ethical are you as a business. And
Yeah.
it is consumer-driven completely.
True. Actually, this comment of yours that people are now being able to see where companies are actually just misleading them. Right. It actually brings me to the question that it segues into the next question perfectly. How do you really figure out what companies or what brands are sustainable and what brands are purely a PR stunt?
To read through the lines, you have to ask
Yeah.
questions, and so many questions. I think before I started Brown Living, I was that irritating customer who would send DMs to brands, who would write Twitter stories and ask them, how did you get this? How are you claiming this is this? Because I've been burnt myself a lot of times. I'm somebody who has a lot of allergies, who has, a lot of health issues. So I've always been very cautious of what I use. And so I think over time, I've just built a huge repository of questions I ask. And that curiosity has led me to build this framework that we use today at Brown Living called the Brown Lens. It's
Right.
just like a list of questions that we ask to really get the real true, framework or real truth behind
The
how-
impact, the
So impact is
The
one
impact
side.
of the product, right?
Absolutely. The impact is one, but really to understand how is this made, what are the ingredients, what are the people behind it, what is the real true cost of this product, and just evaluating those. So we've, of course, it's a elaborate questionnaire, but we've bucketed them under 5 parameters. One is source. So what is the product made of? What are the ingredients? What are the materials? How are those materials sustainable or not? Is there a way to prove that? Do you have certifications, lab reports? The second bucket is method. So process of manufacturing. Is it handmade? Is it done through a machine? Does it have emissions? Does it secrete water? What is the entire sort of process to make this product from material
Right.
to product? The third is packaging. 65% of our landfills are filled with just packaging waste, which is post-consumer. And so
Right.
we took it upon ourselves saying we will not create any more waste. So everything that you see will be compostable, will be, completely will disintegrate in 30 to 40 days. We don't use any other kind of packaging. No plastic tape, no thermocol, no bubble wrap, none of those things. And the product itself has to be compostable in its packaging or be reusable infinitely. We don't allow single-use plastic tubes. We say do it in
Wow.
containers that can be reused, can be recycled. We don't do any amount of plastic there. The fourth parameter we look at is, I think a lot of people miss this completely, but is afterlife. So what happens to the product after the consumer is done with it? Can it be upcycled? Can it be, like dismantled and used for something else? Or can it be composted and put back into the earth, for example? The fifth is very important and very crucial because it's basically design and aesthetics, which enable repeat purchase of that product. A lot of times we will, so many times you'll go to markets, you'll find something cheap and then you'll realize that it doesn't work. It doesn't solve the purpose, or
Yep.
it's not something that you will ever buy again or recommend to somebody. That is because the
True.
design is flawed. And so
Right.
taking a lot of inspiration from Don Norman and human-centered design, we've figured out like functional products that are durable, that really are simple, so simple to use that nobody needs like a guide to tell you how to use this product, for example, or how to dispose it off later. And that really does the job. So well-designed products.
So very intuitive products, right?
Absolutely.
Which you don't really have to go through a learning curve to make the most of, even after you're done
Yeah,
with them.
absolutely. And even for waste managers, right? Consumers end up throwing stuff in trash. But if I make completely something that is completely biodegradable, even if I throw it in my wet waste, it doesn't matter. If it is clothing, for example, we stress upon the fact that please make buttons that are from the same fabric that you have cuttings of. Don't use polyester labels. Use materials that you're already using to make the larger majority of the product so that you don't have to disintegrate or assemble them. These are, of course, simpler
Right,
examples, but they work. And these smaller tweaks in the product can also help the brands improve their bottom lines because they are actually saving them material costs, saving them procurement cost, transportation, etc. And after all of this evaluation, we also look at what is the overall benefit for a consumer in terms of price, in terms of is this something that they will, look at considering again or will recommend, does it add value to their life? So we look at
it should be a...
Yeah.
Sorry, please. I didn't mean to cut you there.
It's just like, I think we obsess over product in these 5 ways, and that really helps us bring the best out.
I was reading about your Brownlands process on your website and I was so impressed because I think what happens is, like you said, right, we start off by understanding whether it's a PR stunt or not. We see a lot of these companies talking about, oh, we are sustainable. But what they basically are doing is they take just one part of something from their product and then they'll try and tom it as being, oh, look, we are so sustainable.
Yeah.
And what they'll do is they'll hide everything else, which is causing so much damage that if you were to know the realities, you'd be like, God. I mean, listen, I'm one of those guys who doesn't mind calling out brands, right? Simple, Shein, right? India is going mad again because I think Reliance wants to bring Shein back to India somehow after the initial ban. That's ridiculous because people don't understand what Shein does, right? Of course, when they'll be brought to India, the world will be told, hey, listen, they've cleaned up their processes and all. But in reality, at the back end, there's nothing going to change. And those brands
Yeah.
along their value chain, right from the raw material in the field to the garment that was never worn and went out to fill out that landfill, they would have caused damage along every step. Right?
And just the Indian story, right? And we are also a country which has gone through a lot of losses of its own. So
Yeah.
I think the large part of our country is still only looking at profit. We're also
Yeah.
a country that's growing tremendously. We have high disposable income now, so suddenly everybody is an overconsumer. We're actually 20 years
Yeah.
behind in consumption cycles from the US, but what we do today matters the most because we are one of the largest countries. So if we make the
Yeah,
wrong
yeah, yeah.
choice as consumers, it's going to have a huge ripple effect. So I think India should have higher standards than the EU in terms
Oh,
of
any day.
consumption because of the sheer volume of how much we consume.
And also, I think time and time again, now it's already been proven that India will be at the receiving end of all this climate change, all these climate change problems, right? Our geographic location is such
Yeah.
that every anomaly on the planet, every major challenge on the planet will come and hit us harder than practically all other nations on the planet,
Yeah.
right? So if we don't take care of these things, and you said something very interesting, right? You said we are 20 years behind the whole US consumption cycle, right?
Yeah.
I would, okay, maybe statistically on the large scale, yes, we are. But see, both you and I think we interact with a lot of people who make up the consumer sector, right? The over consumer sector. I know people in India who are buying Stanley cups of all colors.
But that's
Right? They're
still
literally
that's
getting-
still maybe maximum to 1% of India. But I'm saying larger rural populations. The reason why HUL sachets have started
Yes.
becoming the norm, and it's also been 10 years for that, is that Bharat, not India, but Bharat actually is becoming an overconsumer, which is the problem.
Oh, yes.
And
Which is a problem. Yep.
the brands and the products that the consumers of Bharat are using are
They,
not right, are not sustainable, you know.
yeah.
And we
True.
have been for a very long time a sustainable economy. So
I think largely throughout the existence of our nation, we've been a very sustainable and a very, okay, fair enough. A lot of people would say we were stingy, but that's fine. Being stingy was good,
Yeah.
right? And there was nothing wrong with it.
yeah,
And you know, talking about this, let's talking about consumers. I'm going to put you on a spot. I'm going to put you on a spot right now. I'm going to put you through some paces here. I'm going to challenge you to a few questions. I'm going to do a little rapid fire.
let's do
Okay.
it.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you 3 rapid fire questions, right? And these are all questions that should help our people watching this talk as consumers get an idea of how they can improve their shopping, right? So, my first question to you: 3 items that people can switch to buying sustainable alternates instantly and easily.
I would say don't buy anything. Right? Use the stuff you have. I've seen so many people throw away their Tupperware suddenly because they want to live a sustainable life and they want to be plastic free. But like, make use of what you have. Use it for things that don't interact with your food, for example. Second thing I would say is please invest in a composting bin. Please start segregating
Yes.
your food waste. That is the most amount of change you can bring in a household, and it can help
True.
you just really seeing the transformation from your onion peels to becoming soil and manure for. And it's okay if you don't have plants in your house, just give that compost to somebody, but seeing that transformation really does something to you. And the third product that I would say you should get is maybe start with something that you use on a daily basis. A lot of people start with a bamboo toothbrush. Some people start with diaries that are made with recycled paper because they touch and feel it every day. Some people change to like phone covers that are made with biodegradable materials. So just pick a thing that you use every day that will be that reminder for you to try and stay on this course, because
Yeah.
I think that's essential. If you already
Right.
have a bamboo toothbrush, you may not buy it, but buy something that becomes that reminder.
Reminder. I remember buying this from your website, bamboo toothbrush, which came with a metallic holder.
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunately, I ended up losing that holder at a cousin's place in another city. But that was brilliant. All you got to do is buy the head of your toothbrush and keep using the metal holder. Just keep replacing the.
Yeah.
I think it lasted me a good 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
No, sorry, not 2.5, but 2 years it lasted me. I lost it recently. It was a very recent. maybe it didn't make a huge impact in my overall, it didn't make a huge dent in my overall impact, but you're right. That reminder, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this every day. It's a part, that change can happen.
Yeah, and I think sustainability is not about being perfect. It's really about doing what you can. Because if 20,000 people suddenly switch to a bamboo toothbrush, it would mean that much less in landfill.
True.
And so it's really a reductionist approach to consumption. Again, a lot of people buy these fancy creams and skincare, skin pe lagao.
Sahi baat hai.
You have great, beautiful oils in our country, just pure cold press stuff that just works for moisturization. So I think this whole skincare business can be entirely managed from your kitchen itself. And
True. So actually, that before you go in depth to that, okay, I actually have my next question. I think that what you have to say might be able to answer that question very well. 3 ऐसे आइटम जहां पर हमें जो करंट अनसस्टेनेबल प्रोडक्ट्स को इमीडिएटली सस्टेनेबल आइटम से रिप्लेस करना ही करना है.
It's a tough one. So many.
We could go with your skincare. Yeah, so many. But I mean,
that's
maybe
why
some
it's
examples
tough
from.
because okay, so I think skincare, just use clean water and soap nut. Reetha karte the hum. It's just a powder. You can use it for your hair. Shampoos. Shampoos have, but you also get shampoo bars if you are, used to that liquid form. Take a shampoo bar, cut it into pieces, put it in a blender with some water. It'll become a liquid. So you don't always have to buy the big container. You can just buy a small bar, make it a liquid and still use it. Similarly, I think something in your daily life, please switch from, I think, anything that interacts with food and water. So if you have a plastic bottle, please change it. It's not just because I'm trying to talk about plastic-free living, but really every time you have a container that's interacting with what goes in your body, that container will be leaching microplastics into your food, into your water. So switch to something that is either steel or glass or copper, whatever works for you. And in most cases, Indian households have these things. We have dabbas, we have everything. So
of course,
just stop using plastic. For food
makes
especially,
sense.
Absolutely required. And third, India is a hot country. We don't need to wear polyester. Please don't wear polyester. Please wear natural fibers that are cottons. Today, though, there are so many beautiful materials available like linens and hemp and everything, but basic cotton to sab jagah mil jata hai. Just don't wrap your skin with plastic by wearing polyester. Just wear natural fiber. It'll help your skin breathe. You will feel nicer. It's not possible to research about this, but really it makes you feel like you're breathing through your skin, and that's a beautiful change you can do to yourself. A lot of people,
and I think nobody can vouch better for that than the two of us, having been brought up in Ahmedabad, like the hottest city on the planet.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. And
summer mein cotton was like a blessing, right?
Yeah. And today I think a lot of brands are, at least the smaller guys, are doing some beautiful designs. So if you're concerned about acha cotton crumple ho jata hai, all of those are just things that are for vanity. You can still look really beautiful in a khadi or a linen if you're going for a meeting, if that's what you're concerned about. But I think just embracing our local materials, local natural fibers is something you can do. So no fancy stuff, just back to basics.
I think एक बात मैं बोलूंगा, जो you said ना कि भाई आपको ये टेंशन हो जाती है ना, क्रम्पल हो जाता है. I think हमें एक बात समझने की जरूरत है कि हमें कॉन्स्टेंटली इंस्टाग्राम वर्दी या एक मीटिंग वर्दी अटायर में होना जरूरी नहीं है.
Correct.
आप अपना मस्त रहो, जितना ज्यादा उसके बारे में सोचोगे. एंड यू रिमेंबर राइट एट द बिगिनिंग यू सेड भूटान, राइट? पीपल आर हैप्पी बिकॉज दे आर नॉट कॉन्स्टेंटली थिंकिंग अबाउट दीज थिंग्स, राइट? दे आर नॉट बीइंग कॉन्स्टेंटली रिमाइंडेड. तो अपने आप को वो रिमाइंडर आने ही मत दो. अपना मस्त रहो जिंदगी में, इतना क्यों सोचना है इसके बारे में? इफ यू एग्री विद मी.
I do.
So Chaitri, abhi na ek brown living ke bare mein I want to ask you something, because since we are talking about your website so much, and of course, right, we should with an initiative that brilliant. People who are watching this, let's help them understand how could they probably move from something like an Amazon to your website when it comes to buying things. What are your 3 best selling items?
We have incredible swaps for the kitchen. So we have this product called the beeswax wrap that I personally love. It's a replacement for cling wrap. I mean, this is of
Okay.
course for people who carry foods and dabbas, who use foil or
Mhm.
who use cling wrap. Beautiful product. It's just a cotton cloth which is coated with beeswax that makes just storing food easier. And you can just
Mhm.
rinse it in warm water and you can reuse it up to 100 times. And once the cloth sort of loses its coating, you can, if you find beeswax locally, you can do it yourself or you can send it back and get it done again. That's one
Wonderful.
product that I'm really like excited about. The second product actually is very relevant for companies that are in the product space who are shipping out stuff a lot. We have this paper tape that's actually a replacement for plastic tape, and it's completely compostable, leaves no PLA. It's a craft paper. It's like one of those brown paper sheets with a glue at the back, which is water activated. So you have to
Mhm.
spray water on it, or like take a paintbrush
Okay.
and put water, and it sticks. It's very strong. When you receive a package from Brown Living, you will see it on the outside. It's something that
Okay.
we had identified early on. It was something that plywood companies were using, because when you
Mhm.
transport plywood and you export it, and I think it remains in the ship for over a month or two. And plywood
Yeah.
plywood is made with wood, and wood has a tendency to curve itself.
Correct.
So to keep that wood in like a straight format, they
Uh-huh.
were using these tapes to keep the wood together. And it was keeping the wood together because it was completely natural and is made from a plant sap. So I found this
Right.
tape and I was like, let's just replace plastic tape, and that's it. And it worked. I think over the years, all of our brands use it. They've been using it for all these years, and it's worked beautifully well. So we have a lot of these small baker shops and people who do smaller local packaging as well. We send it to them in smaller sizes. Goal will be to say that can we replace the sellotape that kids use in art class as well. So we're trying similar
Wow.
versions of that with the manufacturer, but it's a beautiful.
The tape suggestion that you're making, this is one of my biggest challenges in my composting bin, right? So whatever packaging comes shows up at home, I compost it, right? And most of the packaging that is not composted is the bit where the sellotape is stuck and I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it becomes a major challenge. Yes, at times they say, oh, this is, it just say biodegradable. But of course, everything is biodegradable. There's nothing on the planet that's not biodegradable. The question is it compostable? And 99% of the times, those tapes are not compostable. So I
Yeah,
guess
and
this
I think
is,
the other problem there is that even if you remove the plastic tape, you will still see some residue of the glue, which actually is the
huh,
PLA, which is the microplastic part of it. So even though your box
right.
is completely compostable and it's made just with the good stuff of paper, the
Uh-huh.
PLA actually makes it leaches microplastics even in your compost bin. So that's
Wow.
that's why we changed our tapes and said, let's not bring any microplastics at all in the value chain.
So what's the third product then?
Yeah, I thought you'll forget.
No, of course not.
Third one, I think.
Something around clothing? Anything in clothing? Is there a garment that sells really well on your website?
Yeah, we actually sell a lot of harem pants for some reason.
Oh,
These
okay.
are those really comfy go and lounge
Yeah,
pants
yeah.
that you have. I think over the last 2 years, शायद सब work from home कर रहे हैं या पता नहीं, comfort has become one of the key factors in fashion today. Like even in Main Street, you'll see looser jeans and like looser fit
Correct.
clothes,
Yeah, yeah,
oversized
yeah.
clothes. So I think those pants that are oversized, and I think it goes from 28 waist to 34, and it's a one size fits all sort of product, and it does beautifully well. It's made with recycled cotton and it's very breezy, really cool. So I think that's one product that we sell a lot.
Wonderful. So, Chetsi, I want to ask you another couple of questions about Brown Living again, right? So, Chetsi, one thing I was going through your website and I saw that you've tied up with the speaker. You're right now running a project with the speaker of the Maharashtra Assembly, right?
Yeah.
And this is to work with the local artisans, right? Now, before I ask you questions about that, I also want to just ask you one thing. About 80% of your sellers are women.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So, why this gender bias?
We are not biased. It's something I realized over time. Even on my team, like I don't know, I end up attracting women for some reason. Actually, the reason why I put this, so the reason why I put this statistic out was because it was something I was very proud of.
Well, you should be.
I didn't realize that I ended up talking to so many women founders. And then one day I told one of my team members saying, can you just do a count of how many women are there? And that's when we realized, oh my God, this is a huge number. And so we should be
Wow.
celebrating that. But, you know, this is not an aberration. I think the climate action movement has actually been started by a woman.
Yeah.
I think in the 1800s, I forget the name. I was reading a book about it. And women have always been the best climate activists that you will find. And
Yeah. Jane Goodall,
Jane Goodall, Greta, all of these people.
Greta Thun. चलो ग्रेटा तो अभी काफी but तभी she is very young. I think yes, she is a spokesperson, but her impact is yet to reach
You
the
see
levels
Dia
of what.
Mirza, you see all
Dia-
of these
yeah.
folks, right?
Yeah.
But I
yeah,
think
yeah.
even scientifically speaking, the book I was reading, I'll tell you the name once I remember it. But in the book, she was saying that the person who actually found out the difference in rising temperatures and this 1 degree shift that we're trying to do was actually a woman. But because she
Wow.
was a woman and it was in the 1800s, people didn't take
So
her
of course it
seriously.
got
And so
unfortunate.
a man picked it up, and
And
that's when the scientific community started listening. And I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad thing, but it tells you how much gender divide plays a role in the way the world works. I mean, women have been proven to be better managers, better people, better have better EQ, better, if they are given the right set of environment. And so
can I add to that? Can I just add to that? So my other business is sustainable, of course, is one bit, but there is this other thing where I also counsel students to study abroad, right? And see, I kid you not, for every 100 people that we speak to, right, 95 people are girls looking to study further.
yeah,
For every 10 students who go abroad to study, 8 are girls today. The commitment, the drive, the fire inside is unbelievable. It's beautiful, right? The passion, of course, then I get to interact with all kinds of people, but that drive, that fire, that passion, I have not seen it in very many boys any longer.
yeah.
Right? That's so anyway, so coming back to your association with the Speaker of Maharashtra's Assembly, right? Weave the Change?
Yeah. We started.
Can you tell us? Yes, please.
We started it literally as a conversation. In fact, we ended up. So I think they discovered us online. They found our business, and then somebody from their office reached out to us saying we want to have a chat to figure out what we can do for artisans of Maharashtra. And Khadi Day was coming up, and so we said, let's start an initiative. So what we do with them is they connect us to local communities, local panchayats, and we then in turn find weavers, find people who are in the hand woven space to then collaborate with designers, to then collaborate with existing business owners that we work with to connect them and make beautiful, sustainable products. So we are doing that market linkage for these people. I think one very ambitious project that I'm currently working on in the same community is to directly digitize them from without the middleman in between, and that's the artisan to consumer format that we're trying to build. People are talking about
so
D2C.
no brown living either.
No
brown living in the way, directly between them and the consumer.
Yeah, so Brown Living will be the platform that enables that, but basically the consumer can buy directly from the artisan, and we build a communication channel on digital for them. Kind of like what Etsy did for handmade small aspiring entrepreneurs, but I think this community is much larger. It's the artisan community in India is actually the second biggest after farming, or the farming community. We have over 250 million artisans in India, but because it's a completely unorganized sector and they all work individually, independently, you will not see them on the GDP chart. But they are actually creating so much value for our country in terms of exports, in terms of products, that it's actually a huge space to be working in and building better value chains for them. And what ends up happening is that a lot of large corporates end up working with artisans and
Hmm.
then giving them, because they are buying in huge volumes, they end up giving the artisan just like a small fraction. You know, before I completed the sentence, right? That's the law of the land, right? And what ends up happening is that they are not motivated enough to continue working or building on their craft, because everybody at
Very
the end of the day,
unfortunate.
enabling somebody means giving them the right to make money for themselves, because we live in a
True.
capitalistic world and without money nobody can do anything. So if you
True.
don't give them the worth of what they are creating and the profits only go into pockets of somebody else who's not the creator, I think that's very
Yeah.
unfair. And so the
Yeah.
whole artisan to consumer model is to really say that how can the artisan get the maximum share of revenue from the product. And of course, there are costs attached. There's a cost of digitally enabling them. There's a cost of logistics. But apart from cutting that cost, everything should go to the artisan. And
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
ambitious model that we're trying to build. And it's not something that I'm working on in stealth mode. I'm very vocal about it because I need all the help I can get. So anybody who's listening or anybody who's interested in this space, we're looking for people to collaborate with. We're looking for partners. We're looking to build out a team. If you're in a school or a college that works with rural communities, if you are a corporate who wants to sort of work in this space, anybody at all, if you think this is exciting, if you want to build a community, enable them in a really financially independent way, I think please reach out to us. I'd love to.
Guys, please reach out to her, because every single one of us, I'm sure, can contribute in some capacity. So do reach out to her and see if you can actually become a part of this process. And hey, you know what? It's always good to do something good.
Yeah.
With that in mind, right? I mean, listen, while listening to you talk about that, right? You're not goosebumps. Damn, that was some passion right there. And I'm surprised that you are willing to let that profit pass on, right? Because most of the people at the end of the day are still looking to how can I buy my Fortuner, right? The most unfortunate ambition on the planet. Meri Fortuner, mera Fortuner. I was speaking to this 30-year-old guy recently, okay? Oh God, his dream in life is मैं 32 तक retire हो जाए Fortuner खरीद के. I sat and I spoke with him and then he did sort of realize, okay, yes, ये बहुत ही गलत aspiration है. पर ठीक है, चलो अब जो भी है. अच्छा, एक बहुत interesting question है. ठीक है, बहुत ही. So I've been reading through your website. I've been looking at all your initiatives that you've been working on and everything. And I also saw that it was buy local, right? You're working with locals, so that helps the economy. You're working on a lot of tree plantation, right? So greening of the planet, you're helping with rewilding and recoveries and everything. So with all of this in mind, ये green living क्यों नहीं है? ये brown living क्यों है?
When I was doing all my research and learning about sustainability, मैंने एक film देखी थी. It was called Sustainable.
Okay.
I think it was on Netflix. It was a documentary 1.5 hour about permaculture. And I know that you did an
Okay.
episode about permaculture recently. But
Yeah.
I studied permaculture to understand sustainability. And I think everybody who has 2 hours should watch this film. It'll open up your eyes about how things are grown and how we are so far away from being producers of our food than being consumers. I think that shift needs to happen. But when I was
Yeah.
watching that film and there was this one dialogue about this farmer who was being interviewed in America, and this person just asked him that this trying to change your farm into an organic farm is taken you 8 years. Why are you doing this? Like, why are you compromising on your yield of the farm, and why are you losing money to just make it have that organic tag? And he was like, he said, yes, it takes 8 years. And those 8 years are not to lose money, but it's really to work with the soil and know the soil and give it what it naturally needs. So the whole process of defertilizing a farm is actually to work with the soil and to remove all the toxins from it. It's actually a detoxifying process.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
I thought that if we really need to green the world, we need to work on the ground first. And that's why the emphasis on material, process, ingredient, and that's the kind of detail that we wanted to get into. Said, can we detoxify our lives? Can we detoxify the products we consume? And so brown actually felt like the more right word, because green सबने इतना use कर लिया है कि वो हर कोई green है आजकल.
I'm like, in any case, listen, Mudita, you are the one who understands design better than I do. So nothing coming from me. Your call. Fine, she did this. And initially, when we had started Sustainable, we had thought of conducting a conference for students from all over the world in Ahmedabad.
I
And
remember.
unfortunately, a major flop. Yeah,
Yeah.
major flop. I lost a lot of money on that as well. And that's what sort of set Sustainable back by a few years. But, we hired a digital marketing firm. And the guy went mental. He said, "Oh, there is nothing green in your logo. There is nothing green in your name. How can we go about talking about sustainability if there is nothing green?" That guy literally forced us to add this. Like something has to be green. So our logo on Instagram actually had this circle around the honeycomb, which is green and and I'm like, listen, how did it help? He's like, I don't know. That's how the world looks at it.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just sad that we this unnecessary association with the color green is actually helping companies justify some very wrong acts as sustainable.
Yeah.
And the world needs to realize that you have to go beyond colors and branding to understand what's going on, right? Sort of the conversation we had earlier.
Yeah.
What is true and what is the PR stunt?
Yeah. So
Right.
very
So,
beautiful
huh.
what you said. Even, when we were looking at packaging and design, we said, okay, we are called brown, but we are actually greening the world. So as a very conscious choice, we made the brand color green, but the name was brown. So you show the transition from words to colors, and all
Right.
our packaging is brown.
Right. Yeah, I've
Absolutely,
noticed that.
because this is the color that makes it compostable. If it is not
Correct.
this color, then you have added something on it. If it is white, you have added chemicals. If it is any other color, you have messed with something in the product to make it a different color. So the most natural color is brown. It's the color of the soil. It's the color of our skin. There
Yeah.
is nothing more universal than brown. And so while the visual digital colors are green, the physical colors of our brand are brown.
So, Chetsi, thank you so much for talking with us on the topic of how can people make their shopping more sustainable, how Brown Living helps them do that, right? And with that, we'll conclude this section and move into the next one. Now, the next one, I want to talk to you about your entrepreneurial journey. And I have some important numbers to state here that she's achieved, okay? So through our website, Chetsi now sells 450 plus brands. So Brown Living is a retail platform for sustainable products and truly sustainable. Okay, we are not talking about naam ke sustainable. So she connects you with 450 plus brands, 65,000 products. 80% of the sellers are women. Through our efforts, 48,000 trees have been planted and about 50,000 kgs of carbon have been saved. But Chetsi, main question ये है, गूगल ने पैसा कितना दिया फंडिंग राउंड में?
Google ने पैसा नहीं दिया, but it was an accelerator. So it was a zero equity, zero funding sort of program that we went through for about 5 months. And they hosted us in Bangalore. They hosted us for 5 days. We did detailed sessions, helped us think through a lot in terms of business model, in terms of tech, how will we scale the solution, connected us to some beautiful mentors that I still talk to today. And I think in a founder's journey, because you're trying to do a lot, you're trying to do everything by yourself, you're trying to save money, you're trying to keep, your vision afloat. We end up, and not everybody can do everything, right? So I think getting the right, even having the right conversation sometimes can be worth crores of rupees. And that's what I realized with Google, because Google, for startups, the team that was, leading us, we had something called a success manager who would, at the beginning of the session, they sat us down and told us, here are the 5 goals. What are the 5 goals that you want to achieve? And towards the end of the program, they made sure that they had made connections with the right people in the ecosystem, whether it's investors, whether it's, people who will help us with tech, whether it's people who help us with think through branding, design, customer experience, whatever it is, to achieve those 5 goals. And just making those connections, you might be writing to 20,000 people on LinkedIn, but nobody will respond. But when Google calls, those people answer, right? So I think that power, that validation, that stamp that we got built a lot of credibility for us, what we were trying to do. So I think without really giving us money, they gave us so much, of course, for the better. And I think the whole Google team till date, I consider them as extended part of our team. Because whenever I have a question, whenever I'm stuck somewhere, I just pick up the phone, tell them, hey, can you help me with this? And they'll find somebody somehow and make the connection within like a week, which is
Wow.
Really cool.
Because unfortunately, otherwise incubators are infamous for, now you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
It's your world, right?
Yeah. They've actually connected us to some incredible, even investors and funders. And I think at the end of the day, end of the program, we had a demo day where I think it was the biggest pitch I have ever made. Got me ready to answer investor questions. I don't come from a financial background, so really got me ready to how to say, what are they looking for. So really speaking the investor language is what I learned. Yeah, that made me a better founder, made me more clearer in my head about how big this opportunity is.
I must say, glad and proud to see somebody get up and say, ठीक है, consumption is the way of the world today, but इसको सिर्फ अपने फायदे के लिए नहीं देखना है, इसमें देखना है सबका फायदा कैसे होगा. Not too many people think like that. I'm honestly so happy to see you do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So thank you. Right. So so what before you got into Brown Living, right? Let's try and understand what brought you here. Okay. What were you doing before your entrepreneurial journey started? And I'd like to understand, let's say, from kind of school days, college days, something from some. Let's start there.
So school, college, I was a very disciplined child. I think I was one of those people who used to get attendance awards in school.
Yes.
And I was also the one who started the canteen cleanup in our school. Remember, we had this really small canteen where the Nescafe.
नीचे basement वाली की बाहर वाली? अच्छा नहीं, ठीक है. Maybe I must have passed out from school by then,
these kids
probably.
who would take their Nescafe cups and they would take their puff in a plate and they would just throw it on the floor. And I was like, "Dede, तुम्हारा school है, क्यों कचरा कर रहे हो?" So instead of fighting with them or telling them to throw the things in a bin, me and my friend Soumya, we just started picking up the trash and started उनके सामने ही just started picking it up and throwing it at the bin. It's okay, it's their waste, but I don't care. And I think 2 or 3 days later, we were called on the assembly. तो हमें लगा कि यार हमने कुछ गलत तो नहीं कर दिया. And they actually gave us a tag called "I love my school." And
Wow.
it was so nice to, like, I really didn't remember this until, one of my friends whom I met in school, they were like, तू ऐसी थी school में, you were such a do-gooder and stuff. But I think it's my nature I always attempt to do it. And अच्छा लगता है. मतलब I like it when, people are happy, when places are cleaner. I also have OCD, so maybe that's why I did that cleanup. I think after school, I studied again in Ahmedabad only. I went to HL, was doing BBA there. I used to be part of these organizing committees for events and, did lots of fun stuff there.
You went to the cradle of entrepreneurship, HL College.
Yeah.
Every child with...
And then even for those events, we got sponsorships. So talking to like local businesses and saying, yaar, College Fest ko sponsor kar do. We were one of the first colleges to start sponsorships externally. I think that's what our director told us. So making the whole event completely, sustainable financially in terms of getting partners, giving them enough visibility, giving them enough value. So we would sit and think about how can we bring value to this brand because they are giving us, let's say, 2 lakh rupees for a booth or for, putting their logo up there. What can we do for them? How can we integrate? So the whole marketing mind started working and we would do brand experiences at a very small college level and loved that experience, loved high touch stuff. So I think after that, when I went on to do my master's in London, I actually studied human experiences in the marketing space, which was largely driven by concerts at the time. I love Coldplay. I love concerts in general. And so because I was studying concerts and I was back in India for my break, I said, let me just try and talk to Sunburn and see if they want to get an intern or something. And so that gave me a deeper understanding. So I interned with Percept for about 4 months, worked with them on brand partnerships, figured out, again, at an intern level, I didn't have a lot of experience but just whatever, to learn and to see how these things work on a grassroots level. And attended my first Sunburn at that time. I think from there, I got introduced to the event world in the Indian space. got a job at Encompass, one of the biggest event companies at the time. Worked again in marketing concept, brand integration there. Launched the brand Nilaya by Asian Paints. They were launching wallpapers at the time. And they also had, so like how Pantone globally has this color theme of the
Hmm.
year, Asian Paints
Right,
had Color
right.
Next, which is every year they announce 4 themes for homes in India, and they
Okay.
would do these events with where they would invite architects to sort of look at what products, what themes are happening, and these are trend forecasting sort of events, so that architects can then sort of take that into their projects as well. So did this 7-8 city tour. Met lots of incredible people in the design world through an event as well. I met my longtime mentor now.
Arvind.
Ronak was head of marketing at Arvind. And then when he moved to Bombay, he started leading Safari, the marketing division. And so he said, I'm building my team. Why don't we hop on here? And that's how my corporate journey started. We literally built the whole backpack division from scratch. We set up offices in China, set up the sourcing for the product. So I think we were like a mini startup in a big corporate, and we got to learn so much from him, from the entire establishment that he had sort of really turned over. So we would do these market visits. I would go to different parts of the country, and these visits were really to observe people. Like, I would sit at airports, I would sit at railway stations, I would sit at big bus depots, and just observe how people are interacting with luggage. And that was a consumer study we did, and to really figure out like what are the price points that will work, what are the features they want in a product that interacts with them on a human level, or like is part of their body when they're on the move. And that's when we created the range of backpacks, took that portfolio from, I think, almost zero to about 350 crores when I left 3.5 years later.
Wow.
And very proud of that journey. I think that was my first taste to entrepreneurship. But I've always been a very reluctant person. Ki, growing up, I used to tell my dad कि यार आप तो इतने बिजी रहते हो, आप पूरा दिन फैक्ट्री में होते हो, आप हमारे साथ टाइम स्पेंड नहीं करते, मुझे नहीं करना बिजनेस, आई विल जस्ट डू अ जॉब एंड आई विल बी हैप्पी विद माय वीकेंड्स ऑफ. But when I tasted entrepreneurship, I was like, wow, this is exciting, and you get to do so much, impact so many
Exactly.
people. And so I think towards the end of my journey at Safari, I had already started thinking of what I want to do. And because I had I wouldn't say lots of experience, but I had tasted some sort of success in how to build from scratch, how to sort of interact with people, learn, get them to do things. And so I started thinking about what would I want to do if I had to start a business. Again, didn't have a plan. So one fine day I decided, okay, I love Tomorrowland was happening. It's one of the biggest concerts
Oh,
in
okay. Yeah,
Europe.
yeah. Yeah.
And so me and my
Yeah.
husband said, okay, let's just go. Let's go to Europe and spend a month. I had quit Safari. I went on this trip with my husband. We came back with lots of memories and amazing experience, but zero business plan. I was jobless. And then again, Mr. Ronak Sharma, who hired me at Safari, had now moved to Future Group, and he said, listen, they are building this new thing, new division called small formats, and I think you might be a good fit. So just apply. And I got through, got that job and joined there. And I think my stint there was the shortest, about 8 months, but I learned a
Okay.
lot in terms of digital. We used to handle huge budgets in terms of performance marketing. We had, again, it was a lean team, but we had a lot of regional team managers who were sitting in Bangalore, sitting in different parts of the country. So again, here I used to do a lot of market visits to, again, understand the retail side of the consumer. So I would go into these convenience stores, sit in stock rooms, understand where are the gaps, why are consumers not buying, what are they looking for, what are the assortments like. So got a different side of the consumer this time, and got a new insight that people want to eat clean.
Yeah.
I personally couldn't eat anything from those stores when I would sort of spend a whole day there, and I was like, यार इतना मुश्किल नहीं होना चाहिए अच्छा खाना खाने के लिए. Why do you have to spend so
सही
much
बात है.
money on eating a healthy meal? Why does everything come in a package? And that's how I got introduced to sustainable packaging. And
Okay.
then I started pitching it internally, saying, please let's at least get rid of plastic bags. Let's at least try and bring forth some smaller brands that are doing really good work in terms of ingredients, nutrition. Tabhi I think Whole Truth or ye sab brands nikle the. And we were like, let's bring them onto the stores because consumers are looking for those things.
Right. Right.
Were not able to execute it to a big level. And I also think it was this narrative of छोटा brand है, नहीं scale कर पाएगा. You know, we have so many stores, we won't be able to sort of reach that demand. Once we create that demand, we won't be able to supply it. It'll be a problem. A lot of hesitation from that systemic level because it was a large corporate. They used to do like, I think one of the biggest retail giants in our country before it fell. So तो वो बहुत सारे like बड़े system में अपने अलग challenges होते हैं. So then I said यार कि ठीक है, मतलब अगर if I'm a consumer and I am also a promoter of this product, I found a gap. कि यार if I'm not able to promote this, then I don't think I can market it. I don't think I'll do a good job. And that's when, without having a plan, I said कि I'll figure something out. I put my papers. I said I cannot promote stuff that I don't believe in or I don't consume because I will not do a good job at it and I'll just lie, and I don't like lying. So I quit my job and then spent about 6 months watching documentaries like sustainable. Did lots of courses on LinkedIn and online on Coursera and stuff. Spoke to a lot of founders, went to a lot of farmers markets, lots of local markets in smaller cities at my own time, and figured out there was a gap for these businesses to grow and scale. Also from the corporate background, I got a lot of learning कि इन brands को scale करना है तो क्या चाहिए.
Correct. And वो बहुत जरूरी है.
I think मुझे actually का brand शुरू करना था, but when I spoke to so many of those guys, उन सबके problems same थे. और उन सबके scaling challenges same थे. So then I said कि यार मैंने scale किया हुआ है, मैंने 2 चीजें scale की है. Let me just try and see if I can help these guys scale. And so it started with just like conversations, meeting them over coffee and trying to sort of break down some of their challenges. And then the more I spoke to them, the more I realized that these guys are getting lost on a platform like Amazon, or when they are going to a physical store or like a market. It's not really helping them reach the number of people they should be reaching. And so that's when I started thinking about the marketplace format. Then I studied a couple of others in this space and said कि यार चलो कुछ नया करते हैं. Let's try and create a founder first platform that is also thinking about the consumer and bringing the right amount of information, the transparency that the consumers need today. And so the Downlens came into being and the whole spiel.
Fair enough. So that's एक चीज है from the whole conversation. तुम में entrepreneurship की चुल बचपन से है.
I was denying it. Correct. I was in denial.
No, but this is brilliant. So one takeaway for me at least is, right, because I'm very similar. I never succeeded in a job, right? I mean, you had success, but I mean, so did I. ऐसी बात नहीं है. But I always found it very difficult to work in a job. You said, yeah, right? You cannot promote something that you don't like.
Yeah.
And I ended up in a job at a bank that was farce. Pure farce, right? And that's sort of when I also took the jump and I said, listen, I can't do this anymore. I need to do my own thing. So Chachi, I'll share very quickly with you my little this thing, right? How I jumped into entrepreneurship. I started a website which was very unfortunately named Share the Love, right? And the whole dating thing was just coming up, right? Tinder and everybody thought I was trying to create a dating platform. Right? When what I was actually trying to create was a platform where volunteers and NGOs could connect. Right? So I think my platform was bound for failure because most website traffic was people looking for a date. And they did find a date, but in a composting place or in a forest miles away from the city, right? So everything that you just said, what I'm trying to sum up here is that as an entrepreneur, we have to live our experiences and draw from that to become successful, right? To at least get started, if not get successful, at least get started, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think those 6 months that I spent before having something to do was really, I walked down the memory lane. I really sat down and said, what am I good at? What do I suck at? And what are the things that I believe in? And I tried to build that Ikigai sort of map. And that really helped shape. So I am obsessed with Simon Sinek, start with why the talk. And I think that everybody should do it. If you don't know why you're doing something, you are always going to fail. It is proven in so many instances that I think it was what worked for me is I always knew my why. And I, of course, spent time in discovering it. But now that I know it, I know that everybody who's coming together, who's helped me over this journey, who's had conversations or who's helped in whatever way, whether it's, picking up my phone at like 12 in the night or, taking that punt on saying, okay, I will get listed on this platform because they're trying to do something good. I think so many people have supported this vision that is not my vision anymore. It's a larger vision that, a larger community is trying to achieve. And, even the investor support that we've got and everybody every customer who's, shopped from us has come back again. We're always trying to be better versions of ourselves. And I think that people see that in, in what you're trying to build. And if they're able to do that, you really have a human connection. I think everything else is a transaction. If you're able to connect with people from here, you will always succeed. So
True
I
that.
think every founder, every entrepreneur must spend that time, understand why did they start or why do they want to be an entrepreneur, because it's not easy. It's not rewarding. It'll suck every bit out of you. But if you have that why and if you have that larger purpose, you will sail through and you will continue to build. And so,
Right.
I had so much
Chetsi,
fun talking about this today. Thank you.
Yep, thank you so much. So Jesse, just one last concluding question. Okay, one last concluding question. Where do you want to take Brown Living in the future?
I think the vision is to make sustainable living mainstream, which again is a very ambitious thought. But if you have to quantify it, because people understand numbers better than thoughts, we would at least like to replace every item in a consumer's household with a sustainable alternative. That's the mission. We are trying to look at different categories, different things that people consume. And I think on the supply side, we're looking at least onboarding 2 lakh artisans directly. It's a very small fraction of what exists today, and plant 1 million trees, because I love trees. I'm a tree hugger.
Wonderful.
Not bragging or not sad about it, but
that's beautiful.
So
that's beautiful.
We want to be carbon neutral. So translating that into tree plantations, working with local communities. It's actually an ecosystem. So we're trying to build an ecosystem that really feeds back to itself and grows and nourishes the planet and the people in the process. And let them love what they do. Yeah. So
wonderful. So Chetsi, with that, what it's been very insightful to listen to you. Everything that you shared today is beautiful. It's wonderful. I do have a request. Your entrepreneurial journey, you're going to learn a lot. Maybe we'd love to have you back on the channel where we explore nuances of smaller things within entrepreneurship, because building a sustainable brand and a mainstream sustainable brand is not easy, right? It's challenging. Thousands of people in India want to do it today, but I don't think they know where to start, how to go about it. And I think your knowledge, that what you gain along this journey, would be very useful for everybody. So I hope, is that something you would be open to? Coming back and discussing this? Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And on that note, Chelsea, I know you have to go for another meeting, so we're going to let you go now. Thank you so much. You have a lovely day ahead, and we look forward to having you again.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. And I'm looking forward to meeting so many more people through this episode.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.